Sorry. Let me just subscribe. Okay. Sorry, it's my first time presenting in Teams with PowerPoint and not sure how it works. Okay. So welcome everyone to our very first Lumio Lab working group. This is where we will have representation from each of the sites, laboratory representation from each of the sites. From this point until go live, it will largely be for change management, knowledge transfer purposes. Beyond go live, we'll shift to looking at how to manage changes in our system in the future. Stick to the script. All right. So here's a welcome screen. You've all been nominated by your organization to represent your labs at your sites. I'm sure there's lots of questions, and we're hoping to use this as an avenue to address a lot of the questions that come up as we get closer to go live through training. So let's start with a round of introductions. I know a lot of us know each other being from the labs. It's not a huge world, but let's go through anyways. I'm Andrew Stevens. I am the clinical system specialist for Lumio for the operations team moving forward. Me and my team will be supporting any changes or issue resolution in our new LIS. Kim, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kim Jones. I'm currently acting as the workflow lead for the lab. I'm in case we haven't met. I will support Andrew in this team, maybe answer questions, build items that he may not know, or items like that. I will be a second person here in the meeting.
Laura Weber, do you want to jump in next?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Weber. I am the manager of the diagnostics group in the Lumio operations team, which lab is a part of. Nice to see everyone.
And Rachel?
Hi, everyone. I am the working group coordinator for Ancillary, and I will be assisting Andrew in the back end of these meetings.
Thank you. Justine, do you want to lead us off for one of our sites?
Sure. I'm Justine Feeney. I'm the charge technologist at Lennox and Addington site. And I've been working on pretty much everything Cerner Lumio at our site for lab.
Thank you. Laura White, you're next up on my list.
Hi, I'm Laura White. I'm the corporate manager for Quinte Health, overseeing Belleville, Picton, Trenton, and Bancroft for our point of care sites.
Sherry Wilson.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sherry Wilson. I am the manager for our microbiology and sequencing labs at Kingston.
Donna Pochus.
Hi, I'm Donna Pochus. I am one of the other clinical lab managers at Kingston Health Science Center. My labs are the core lab, transfusion medicine, and point of care for Kingston Health Science.
Joyce, do you want to go next?
Hi, Joyce DeVette McPhail, Laboratory Administrative Director here at the KHSC site. Good to see everyone.
Kim Kehoe. Unless you're having issues, I saw you just rejoined. So let's go. Let's go to Tenzin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tenzin Jampa here at Quinte Health, Application Services Consultant.
Tenzin. Kim, I see you're off mute. You want to go ahead?
Sure. Kim Keogh, Lab Manager for Perth and Smith Falls District Hospital.
And Tammy.
Sorry. My name is Tammy Peterside, and I am the change management specialist, supporting the lab group. So yeah, happy to meet everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And sorry, did I miss anyone? No, I think I got everyone who's on. Sorry, Rachel. Do you know who is missing attendance today? Just know that we didn't have anyone from Brockville here.
I do have a couple of declines for today. They might be one of them.
So just for awareness, there are membership from the other sites as well. Hopefully we'll see them in future meetings and they can do intros then. All right, here is our agenda for today's meeting. So we started off with introductions. We'll review the project timelines and structure. We'll talk about the role of change champions and what's expected. After that, we'll move on to a period about how the processes for having questions answered and how to escalate things, both from the sites up to Lumio, as well as disseminating information out from Lumio to all of the sites to make sure that we're staying as connected as we can as we approach go live. Part of these working groups is to develop a library of learning resources, which is going to be hosted on the Lumio library. We'll review how to access that, what information is there, and what we can work on moving forward to add to that that'll be helpful for all the sites. We'll also discuss next steps for this working group. What we're hoping to accomplish as we move forward, but really what each of you want to take away from this working group, because Lumio team is really here to support each site and make sure that you guys are, that we all have successful go live as well as beyond. So if there's anything that you guys want to take away from these meetings, it's going to be helpful to get your input so that we can provide good direction moving forward. All right, so introduction to Lumio and working groups. And I believe these slides will be sent out after the meeting, so we won't go through in too much detail, but this just outlines the Lumio's vision and guiding principles, which have been in place for a few years now. I think it's really been what's driven the course of the project and how we've gotten to where we are today, and hopefully how we continue working together moving forward. It outlines things like striving for a streamlined single patient record, and that pushing for standardization wherever it's feasible. So overview of the working group structure. So the purpose of the working group structure is to promote knowledge transfer within all 6 organizations, given that there are limitations of each department at each site being able to be completely involved in this project. This is meant to be a central point of communication. Like I said, both going from the sites up to Lumio and down from Lumio to each of the sites. And even just between sites as well. It might be that one site has figured out a workflow that works well for them, that they want to share with others to help with that knowledge transfer. This working group is to facilitate collaboration and problem solving among the stakeholders to address specific issues or achieve particular goals related to patient care, operational efficiency, or organizational improvement. Facilitate knowledge transfer and manage change effectively, ensuring a broader spectrum of representatives comprehensively grasp future state workflows. So the membership will have representation from each site, as well as the operations team co-chair, which is myself. I'll be in charge of leading the working groups and enhancing knowledge of each of the members of this team as we approach go live, but even after go live into operations. We are expected to select a regional co-chair. So one of our members from one of the sites, if anybody's interested after the meeting, please put your name forward. It's really to make sure that there's the local ownership of this as well. It's not just all Lumio saying what things are going to be done. We need local representation to co-chair these meetings to really direct us in the direction of what's important to the sites. The organizational working group change champion representative. So representation for each applicable working group from all 6 organizations with subject matter expertise in critical groups. This representative will also serve as a change champion who will be responsible for discussing essential workflows, changes, and relay updates back to the organizations. So this is each of you. You're expected to act as a change champion of these meetings, and any information shared here, it's expected that you'll be able to help disseminate it out to each of your sites. Workflow leads and change management specialist team. They will attend these meetings to help facilitate discussion or bring new material and answer questions as needed. The cadence of these meetings will be for the kickoff, and I believe the second meeting, there'll be 2 hours, but from that point on, it'll be bi-weekly 1-hour meetings. It can be used for escalations, so any issues that arrive from now to go live. Working groups will help in any decision making for system build that's needed to address issues, as well as to help prioritize certain changes that are needed. As far as materials and agenda will be circulated in advance of each meeting via email. So about some of the expectations for this, one of the big things is that this is not. It is not an opportunity to redesign the system. We really do need to be critical about what we're focusing on of things that, if there are issues, we need to make sure that they truly are issues that cannot be worked around. The reason being, there's very little time between now and go live, and there aren't enough resources to redesign certain aspects of the system at this time. That's not to say that the build we have right now will forever be that way. Post go live optimization and utilizing this work group to see how our system transforms in the future will be critical, but it's just not the purpose of this group at this point in time. So what this is the operations team, myself, will be leading this. We'll prepare presentations or other documentation to communicate outcomes, recommendations, and prepare the regional co-chair to gather feedback and insight. Working group representatives will provide input as SMEs on key topics for their respective area. Working group representatives are responsible to go back to organizations with knowledge. Working group representatives will answer questions for their organizations and bring back questions from their organizations to the regional group. So it's really just that central line of communication is what this is for pre-go live. And post go live, all working group members will act quickly to resolve issues as they arise during the go live phase. So we will expect participation in depending on what comes up, we'll be looking to this group to help triage and work through any issues that come up and make decisions on what the correct fix needs to be. All working group representatives will gather feedback on system performance and usability from their respective areas and prioritize optimization requests based on impact and urgency. So again, it's just circling back to, we need the site's input to direct our workflows to make sure that we're focusing on what's truly a priority. Working groups as a change management network. So the working group structure is being initiated to ensure more equitable distribution of subject matter experts from all organizations. Earlier on, there wasn't always full representation from all the sites, just due to staffing limitations or patient needs. But this is really hoping to reset, level set to allow for that representation from all sites to come to the table at this working group. So during the onboarding phase, which is where we are right now, I believe. So, the intent is to review, it says all workflows, but really we want to start with the most critical workflows, which is where we can use your feedback for what workflows do you all want to see in the system or want more information on. Complete facilitation training to effectively lead discussions and demonstrations about Lumio. The change management phase is taking it back to your organizations to conduct discussions locally to explain the benefits and help triage questions and concerns. As we get closer to go live, there's going to be a lot more concerns that come, that bubble up. Change is hard for any level of change is hard, and this is a big change for a lot of people. So there's going to be questions and concerns, and as long as we keep talking through it, I think we'll be okay. Contribute to planning and execution of local change management activities under the direction of local change teams. Around the go live readiness phase, we will be the champion the adoption of change management activities by monitoring engagement within local clinical teams and providing resources, which will be demos, tip sheets, job aids. Throughout the course of the project, people like Kim and consultants we can work with have provided a whole lot of job aids that we can distribute out to this working group that I think will help in a lot of that change activities. Just one pagers of what the different applications are and what they're used for can be really helpful for adapting our workflows to a new system. And then ongoing engagement phase. So this would be participating in regional working groups to inform the Lumio team of local workflows or information is required, and to help prioritize and validate design for optimization requests. Working group, sorry. Sorry, Tammy, is this the slide where you're taking over, or is this still on me?
I'm sorry, sorry. Took me a while to unmute myself. No, this is not the slide where I take over.
Okay, no problem. Sorry, I think some of the slides had changed before I got on vacation, or since I went on vacation. I'm just trying to reorient myself as we go here.
Sure.
But alrighty. So the working group facilitation plan. So the role assignments for meetings. The facilitator co-chair would be myself, who will manage the meeting objectives, help keep the audience on track and on time, and help ensure participation and getting feedback from the attendees. And then between the two co-chairs, some of these roles might flow back and forth, but the moderator co-chair will be expected to watch the chat and raise any notes or questions or comments, helps the facilitator know if there are any questions and guides those having connection issues through troubleshooting steps. The note taker coordinator, which I believe, Rachel, you're taking this on, at least for the time being. Thank you so much. She'll record attendance. She'll update notes with key topics discussed and decisions made, any questions, and will also help manage the parking lot. And if anybody's not familiar with the parking lot concept that's been used on this project, it's any questions that may not be relevant to the current topic at hand, they'll be put in a parking lot for future discussion, or if it's something that we don't have the answer to right now, it's a way to defer things that are important, but maybe not the task at hand. All right, and this is the list of the principles of respectful participation. Participation. Sorry, I can't talk today. It's just another list of expectations for these meetings, and it's been the case for all of Lumio. We expect that everybody will be fully present. Will be open to new ideas. Be respectful of your airtime, that you're not taking the floor, and we're allowing for each of our members to have a voice at these meetings as well. Again, these will be sent out after the meeting, so we won't read it off one for one. Some etiquette to support respectful participation. Camera on when possible. Mute your microphone when not speaking, which is really the big one. I know we all have things going on around us that we don't need to capture in the background for everyone to hear. Please silence your cell phones. If possible, close email. Use the raise hand feature. It's a very useful feature of Teams. It will even queue up whoever raised their hand first, so that we can make sure that we're working through everybody's questions and concerns. Please limit the chat use to the current workshop discussion, so try not to get offhand, so that as we're trying to lead these meetings, we can stay on topic. And then the workshop team will use the parking lot for unresolved issues or things that are out of scope for the current discussion. Not to say that they're not important, just as a way to keep us moving forward. We want to have a mechanism to move those topics to a future discussion. All right, so the next up is project timelines and structure. So this is the most recent version of the critical path. It was just released last week. So you can see it brings us from August right to go live, and a little bit beyond into our stabilization period. This outlines at a high level key activities that need to get done. A lot of them are focused around the different gateways of what metrics need to be completed to sign off with Lumio leadership as well as Oracle leadership to say, yes, we're ready to move on to the next stage. The only remaining gateway for us is the activation gateway, which will run in November. That will be I believe that's the final determination to say, yes, we are ready. We are ready for go live, and from that point on, it's no looking back. Full steam ahead. I've included in here an outline of the various Lumio project domains. There's been a lot of talk about prods or build, so that this slide really just outlines the intent of each of those domains. At a high level, the train is being used for training. The certification domain is where any changes will be made and validated by one or multiple site resources before being promoted into production for live patient use. Yeah, the build domain, it's currently being used for the Lumio operations team. The use of that may be flexible in the future, but that's the current path. And then the mock domain, which we don't currently have, but it will be available to help with any large scale system upgrades. Like if there's a new code upgrade that's going to be a big impact, we will have that separate domain to implement it, so there's no downstream impacts to our patients. This is the high level governance model. So at the very top, there is the CEO Council, which I believe is the CEO from each of our partner organizations. They are the head of all things, and so below them is the steering committee. Below that, there's both the Program Transformation Council as well as the technical committee. And below PTC, there's various other committees. And now we're on to the role of change champions, which I think this is where Tammy takes over.
This is correct. Hello, everyone. So I'll just be touching on the role of change champions, which is really the role of everyone on this working group in just preparing your teams, your colleagues for the upcoming changes that Lumio brings. So as a change champion, you've all been selected to represent your organization's voices. And so if you go to the next slide, please. I'm not sure who is, Andrew, I think you're, okay, awesome, thank you. So as a change champion, you hold several important responsibilities. You've been selected by your organizations to represent their voice in this working group. And so really you'd be communicating with your team members, your colleagues, your peers, and ideally people refer to hear messages about how the change impacts them from their team and the person that they report to. And so in this case, that would be yourself. And also just being a bridge from whatever you hear on the local level, bringing it back to this working group. So I know that in slides to come, we'll talk about how questions will be answered and how that flow would look like. But also just remembering like you're the liaison involved working directly with this working group or directly with the project team, taking directions, providing feedback. And if you hear any pain points at your organizations to areas where people would be interested in seeing like a workflow or just areas where people are concerned, please feel free to bring it back to this group. Like Andrew said, that would help to inform some of the agenda topics going forward. And so we know that change is hard. We are also counting on you to be an advocate to the changes that are coming. So if a leader opposes changes, chances are your teams will too, and vice versa. So as an advocate for the Lumio system, you will help to get people on board with the upcoming changes. And even if you're not a direct manager, you can still be a leader, you can still motivate people and just really shine a light on all the policies and all the things that Lumio represents, like increasing the care and better quality of care for the patients and people that we serve. As a resistance manager, you know your teams better than we do. You're better poised to help people through the change process. And so you would be able to better prepare them, equip them, and support them with their unique needs and challenges. And if there's any way the region can help, we definitely want to hear it. Once again, please bring it back to this working group and we can discuss. It is also possible that, there's something done differently at another organization. So we also want to create that spirit of collaboration within the working group as well. And lastly, as a coach, helping employees through their personal transitions is the essence of the change coaching that leaders do. The next slide, please. So the next slide really touches on, I think, the life cycle, what I call the life cycle of the working group. So at the beginning, there was the awareness phase, and you would probably have heard that there Lumio is coming. We're building or working on a system that would integrate care across 6 partner organizations. People notice that change is happening, information comes from leaders. And at this point, we were running leadership kickoffs, micro simulations that you might have been a part of or you might have seen. It is also available on the Lumio library. And then the next stage is understanding. So people generally understand what the end picture looks like, what the overall benefits of the change looks like. And so here we were sending out provider or physician packages, manager toolkits, snippets just to update managers and providers as well. We're also carrying out knowledge transfer workshops. And this really ties into the next phase, which is people begin to champion the change and leverage the knowledge to bring people on board. And so right under the acceptance phase, you would see working groups. But really, I think we have moved a little from the acceptance phase to the adoption phase. So in the acceptance phase, there was the knowledge transfer workshops. Some working groups kicked off this working group a little later than others, but this is really to help people leverage and that knowledge transfer piece to the local organization so people can, champions yourselves, can bring people on board. And so the next phase is the adoption phase where knowledge transfer is really happening. You might have gone through, if you're involved at your local level, at the local organizations, you might have gone through maybe train the trainer, super user training, and things like that. So we see a lot of locally driven activities are now happening at this adoption phase. So the knowledge transfer training ensures that users are fully equipped and can complete their day-to-day work. And then we would carry on this phase right until go live, which is in December. We get to December, we turn the systems on, we all celebrate that this system has now launched and all the work that has gone into building the system up till now. We can see sort of the fruits of our labor, and everyone celebrates, and it doesn't stop there. So go live really is day one. It's not the end. And as Andrew had mentioned, after go live, the working group really transitions into operations and transitions into a decision-making group where now you've probably gone through one of the many training sessions that occur at the local level. You're familiar with the system, and now we want to make the system better. So maybe as you've used the system, you're like, oh, actually there's a bug here, or there's something that we can do to optimize the system. And so that's where the optimization comes in. And then decisions are brought to this working group and are made collaboratively and as one region. And I'll go to the next slide, which is how questions and answers would look like in the working group. So like I said, if you do hear any pain points, if you do have any questions at your local level, please feel free to bring them to the working group. It is possible that it will look slightly different in different organizations. So please make room for slight nuances. But in general, let's say Bill from HSC has a question. So that Bill is encouraged to go to their local site project manager or their manager, whoever they report to, with your question. Now that Lumio project manager at KHSC or their manager can answer that question. If for whatever reason they cannot answer that question is brought to the working group member, which is yourself. Now, in some cases, the manager is the working group member. It works out nicely. Some steps are cut off, but in the case where it's not, you might be approached by a manager or a project manager at your local organization asking some questions. If you're able to answer those questions, great, and that's where that ends. The question is answered, we move on. If not, you can definitely bring it into the working group, and Andrea and all the regional team members can work collaboratively together to get you the information that you seek. For whatever reason, if the question cannot be answered within the working group, so for example, the question cuts across multiple working groups or multiple workflows, that's when I'll come in, take ownership, and bring together the right stakeholders for the resolution. After that, and that answer has been gotten, it would still be brought back to the working group, and it would be left to you as a local working group member to contact either the project manager or the staff member Bill, who had the question in the first place, to make sure that they have the answer that they were seeking, just to ensure that that feedback loop is continued and that question is answered at that level. So I'll just pause there to see if there's any questions or concerns so far. I see a hand. Laura?
Yeah, I'm just wondering with the different groups that we have, and I'm thinking there's a core lab working group, there's one for microbiology, there's a separate one for blood bank, there's a separate one for pathology and cerebro. How are we tying all of those in so everybody knows where they need to go and who to go to?
So Laura, are you talking about like at the regional level or at your organization?
It could be either. I mean, some of the hospitals are smaller and don't have all the disciplines, but you know, we have a couple of hospitals that do have all the disciplines. So I'm just trying to make sure we're all tied together and not making sure we're sort of on the same page for each of the working groups.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Andrew, please feel free to just jump in at any point. But my understanding is, so when there was a call out for members of the working group, that leaders strategically chose people who could fit into like those different specialties at your different organizations, so that you're able to carry everyone along, and that message is filtered through the different working groups or the different channels at your local organization. And Andrew, is this a correct statement, or am I speaking off turn here?
No, I think I can add maybe a little extra context here. What I think Laura's referring to is the weekly solution calls with our Oracle consultants. That they are specific to the different solutions like blood bank, GenLab, AP, or microbiology. When this working group was being put together, I think there was a consideration of splitting out into the separate disciplines, but since not all sites, have different representation for those different disciplines, it makes it difficult for the smaller sites to attend 4 2-hour meetings in a week as opposed to one. So this is where the working group model landed, at least for this point in time. And as far as what questions come to this working group versus what questions go to the solution calls, I'm not sure of a definitive answer on that. It's a bit of that gray area right now, where a lot of the specific issue resolution things would still make more sense to go to the solution calls, where it's a larger workflow impact or discussion sort of thing where no build is needed. This might be a more appropriate avenue for that. Sorry, Tenley, before jumping you, just Kim Jones, do you have anything to add to that by any chance? Or
not a lot. I mean, my understanding of the work group and a single work group is we're going to be the agents who are going to champion the change, regional change or otherwise. So if you overhear that pathology is having difficulty in Laura's area, in Laura's facility, then you can certainly bring that information to this group. You're going to be the escalator, the person that they'll escalate to first, so it can come to this group, and then we'll work it out as a whole. If we need to bring in specialists, we can do that. If we need to have pointed discussions and bring in key experts, we can do that. But yeah, that's kind of how I understood this was going to operate.
I very much expect that this will be a flexible working group, and you know, we'll address what we need to as it comes up. Does that help, Laura?
Okay. Yeah, I think once we get into the swing of it a bit more, it might become a little more clear. I'm just concerned about, you know, the core lab is, you know, sort of the central hub for any of the specimens coming in, but are they communicating more with microbiology as the samples come in through core, delivered to micro, that sort of thing? But it's possible that it'll sort of all work itself out in the wash, I guess.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Tenzin?
Thanks, Laura. I can see someone else's hands up. Tanzeen?
So I kind of get it. Is this meeting like, you know, is like in the bigger picture, is the purpose of this meeting to rein in all those communication towards this, or because, like, you know, the other groups, as Laura mentioned, they have already established like a relationship in communication from like inception till now. So like naturally they would ask their questions to those working groups.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Tanzine, you're saying is the purpose of this working group to rein in the different communications and bring it to a central location instead of it being in pockets? That your
Yes.
question? Yeah.
Yes.
I would say yes. And like both Andrew had mentioned and Kim as well, it will be a work in progress. And so while if you do hear anything from those other groups that are that are an issue or cause of concern, you can definitely bring it to this group, and we can, you know, bring in the right people that needs to be brought in to answer those questions. I'm not sure if those other groups will continue after go live. I think it's important really to know that this group, the goal right now is, yes, that knowledge transfer piece, but also after go live, when we get to optimization and just making sure that the system works for each organization, that's where this group would really play a part as decision makers for that. So I'm not sure about the continuity of the other groups, whether they would end once go live. You know, we reach go live, but I know that the goal for this one is to continue after go live. So while yes, you can bring in those other concerns, really the main goal is somewhere to bring those questions, somewhere to bring those decisions to after go live. Does that help answer your question, Tanzine?
Yes, if I may add, I think a communication would be appreciated because of the established relationship with the like a Lumio or certain representatives, like between lab, SME, and the techs versus techs and the certain representation. I can't speak. Representation. Representative. But yeah,
Representative?
like
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, because there's already established relationships. So like if this is gonna be the official that we're gonna funnel into, be nice to have like some official communication so that we could gather and we could come to the same watering hole.
Yeah, and I think I understand what you're getting at, and that is part of the I believe that's part of the expectations of all of you being members on this working group, is being that source of communication back out to your sites. You know, so one of the takeaways from this, at least in my perception, would be to you know, reach out to all of those other SMEs from your site that have been on the project, to let them know that this working group has kicked off, and you know, what sorts of issues we hope to address here, and let them know that this is an avenue that they can escalate things to you to bring up here as well. Is that
Yeah.
on point there, Tammy, or about what's expected of this?
Yes, really to act as that bridge or that liaison for the other groups. I'm not very familiar with the different groups that are available right now, but yes, I think like if we can reach out to all the groups that are related or you think would be necessary to funnel into this group, reaching out to those SMEs that have been part of the build, I think, while they can raise their issues or their concerns at those other meetings, doesn't hurt to bring them up here as well. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. I'm not sure if it's just my Teams, but it's showing very wonkily. Like I can't see the next slide. Is that my problem or?
I can see it. It's clear to me.
I can see it,
Okay.
it's fine.
Uh-oh.
I can see it.
Okay.
Try coming off a video, maybe.
No, it's still not showing up for me.
Let me try, I'll try stop sharing and
Okay. I have an idea of what the next slide would be. So like the question and answers within the working group, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the process remains pretty much similar. Instead of Bill asking the questions, it will come from one of you. Maybe you heard in passing or it just occurred to you. You can definitely still bring it to this working group. And yes, Andrew, I can see the slides now. Thank you so much. But yeah, you can definitely still bring it to this working group. We'll try to get the answers for you. If for whatever reason we're not able to get those answers because it crosses across between other working groups, we will get the right stakeholders in the room to get those answers to you. So I believe this slide is just talking about the previous process when Bill asked the question. And then the next slide will be talking about if any of you right now on the call had a question within the working group. And that is pretty much it. So the next slide will just be a workflow diagram of what I've just explained, where you have a question, you bring it to the working group. If it's answered, that's great. You can share that information back to your team. If it is not answered and it involves multiple working groups, we'll bring the right people into the same room and get those answers for you. I'll pause again and see if anyone has any questions, concerns, contributions. Nope. I believe this is the last slide for me, Andrew. Is that correct? Okay. Would you want me to go through the learning resources available on the Lumio library as well?
yes, please, if you don't mind. I'm not as familiar with them yet.
Absolutely. And if I can just ask the group, just with a thumbs up, how many people are familiar with the Lumio library? One thumbs up, 2, 3. Okay, that's great. Fantastic. I am seeing more thumbs up. I'll just go ahead and still pop it in the chat should anyone else not be familiar with it. My Teams is really acting up today and I can no longer access the chat. So if someone wants to please pop the link to the Lumio library in the chat. So once you click on that link, it will take you to a sign up page if you're not already signed up. Please give 24 hours for the comms team on the Lumio project to give you access to the Lumio library. Once you do get access to the Lumio library, once you create your username and password, you will see the homepage, and I'll attempt to share my screen here. Can you see my screen? Okay. Yes. Okay, great. So once you do get access to the Lumio library, you'll be brought to the homepage, which looks exactly like this. There are a lot of resources available on the Lumio library, and you can, at your convenience, go through them. I'll just point out a couple. So we do have a podcast where we have interviewed people from training managers to SMEs working on the project, on their experiences and just what's coming up. The micro simulations, which is really a sneak peek of the system for different workflows, are also available here. We've been running knowledge transfer workshops, which some of you might have been a part of since January. You can see, and we just rounded up the last one last week, I believe. And so you can get the slide decks, the FAQs for those knowledge transfer workshops here. And then there is a specific page for providers where it is updated monthly just with things that they should know and they can bring back to their team, as well as the manager's toolkit, which is updated monthly as well. I would want to focus more on this tab, which is the change management working groups, which is where you will be finding most of the resources pertaining to this working group. So once you click on that, you'll see the working group representatives, the question log, which really is a log where all the questions that we get from the working group sessions or that you have brought from your local organizations would live, and the answers as well. And then the working group meeting calendars here, as well as agendas for the different working groups. And so I believe this is arranged alphabetically. And so we'll just scroll down to see lab. It is also possible that because it is just launching, they have not updated this yet. So that lab has its page. It will be updated momentarily. But really, all the groups and their structures look pretty much identical. We'll take CPOE working group for an example. Once you do get into your own working group, which would say lab working group, you would see templates and materials, facilitation guide, meeting minutes. I do like to emphasize the learn, do, share template, which is really something that you can leverage to maybe take notes on, oh, I learned this today at the working group meeting. I want to share it back with my team, or I need to contact someone at the local organization to do XYZ, just so that the people on my team are better prepared for the change that's coming. You'd also see a recording of the meeting as well. So all of the meetings would be recorded. Should you need to leave early or join a little later, you can go back and refer to them. You will also see workflow schematics. Now this is for CPOE, but you would see workflow schematics pertaining to your own working group as well. And so the structures will remain largely the same: meeting agendas, minutes, previous recordings, and the slide deck that was shared as well. And I'll pause there to see if anyone has any questions or concerns. Okay, in the absence of none, I'll hand it back to Andrew. Thank you. Andrew, you're mute there if you're talking.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy, for that overview of the Lumio library and where we can find all these resources moving forward. So the other learning resources is a live walkthrough of a high impact workflow. So for the labs, I don't know that we identified a single high impact workflow to go through here. So since you know, everybody's background or experience within the Lumio domains is varied. We figured we'd just go through a very basic, you know, place an order, show how it's collected, show how it's received and resulted, and how the results look on the provider side as well. So this here is how a patient's chart looks like for me in my position as a DBA. The different views on the left here will be limited based on the different roles that everybody has. It's very limited for the lab tech roles, as there's not much that they actually do in PowerChart. Most of the lab's actions happen in the world of PathNet, which is the LIS portion of Cerner Millennium. So to add a single order, we'll just pop this open here. And there's different ways how providers will order things, such as quick orders or favorites or power plans, but we figure we just go the most basic way of just searching for a random glucose here. So we search for the test, selected it. Now we're done searching. We will close this box here. And you can see that this order has been added to the Scratchpad. The little notification here says that additional details are required before it can actually be placed. And down at the bottom, you can, since it's highlighted, you can see the order entry format, and anything yellow are fields that need to be answered in order for the order to be accepted. So we'll place this as stat. Depending on the patient's location, if its order is routine, it may fall to a collection list and the order doesn't generate right away. So largely for testing purposes, it's easier to just place these orders as stat. Though that's obviously not the recommended workflow in real life. So at this point, I've signed the order, and within Cerner, it's always important to refresh before you think that something doesn't work. The status right now is processing, but when we refresh up here, we can see that the order was actually dispatched. So at this point, there's a lot of information in the system that can be accessed in different ways. The order information can be found by right-clicking on it. There's several different tabs to find out all the different details that you could ever hope to find on that order, which will be handy for auditing purposes in the future. We'll launch into the specimen collection module. So you do need to be in the context of the patient's chart for specimen collection, and it will load up with the patient's demographics at the top, and it will expect a scan of the wristband. For testing, we're able to bypass it to say unable to scan, and we can see any of the orders that have currently been dispatched. If multiple orders net to the same tube, it will condense them together as well. It will give you a visual indicator of the color of tube that's needed, as well as describing that it's a light green PST 3 mil. Within here, the person doing the collection is able to print either all of the labels from the top, or they can print just individual labels for each specimen that they want to collect at that time. And then once they scan that label after they've collected it, it will mark it off with a check mark. Since I don't have a scanner or printer, I'm just bypassing it. But you can see that the icon turns to a check mark to say this one's been marked as collected. And then once you hit sign, that's when it accepts that action into the system, and it has truly been marked as collected. At this point, we'll move over to the PathNet side. So order result viewer is another application that's very handy, especially for testing, in that you can pull up your test patient and see any pending orders or any completed orders, the current status of the specimens. So you can see this glucose order here. Its current status is collected. So we'll go ahead and log that in. Specimen login screen. At this point here, there's in the specimen login application, there's another very handy tool called Container Inquiry. This has a number of different things that you can see. So first of which is to see the routing. This will show you, based on that patient's location and the order placed, which service resource or bench or instrument that order is supposed to go to, as well as where it needs to be logged into to be considered in lab. So right here we see BRGH central processing. On the collections inquiry screen, there's also a lot of useful information here, such as when the order was actually dispatched in the system, when it was marked as collected, who marked it as collected, and the PPID and PAID override in the specimen collect application. If you click that unable scan wristband, it will have this PPID override action log to it, as well as the username who overrode that. So it'll be good for tracking metrics of, if one user is consistently bypassing the PPID scans, it really allows for some targeted education to make sure that people are collecting specimens appropriately. Same thing with the accession ID override. If they're scanning the wristband, but just clicking the list and saying mark all as collected rather than scanning the individual barcodes, that can be tracked as well. There is another status in here that I'm not able to show. It will actually tell you if a label is generated, at what date and time the label was printed at, and I believe by which user, as well as which device it was printed on. So, if someone's having issues, they say, I've tried printing this a million times, I'm not seeing it. This is a good troubleshooting screen to go into to see where those labels are actually trying to print to. So go ahead and hit login. And then back in our order result viewer, we can refresh and see that the status has been updated to in lab. This is the point that we can actually result them at. If you try to open in result entry before the specimen's actually in lab, it will error out. And this is a safety measure to make sure that you're not trying to result the wrong test at the wrong time. Enter our result here. We'll perform, verify. Back in order result viewer, we'll refresh again, and we can see the status is updated to complete. So to actually view the results, we can double click on it here, and we can see the order, date and time, the person who verified it, the procedure, as well as the result. You can also pull up previous results from here. Sorry, Tenzin, you got a question?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Andrew. I noticed you put in the password. Is that gonna show up every time?
That's a good question. So that is role dependent. Being a DBA, it requires me to enter a password to verify any results. I believe the hybrid lab tech role, which is what the bench techs will have, does not require a password to verify.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. That's a good question. So that is one mechanism of viewing results. There's also, you can change the modes of order result viewer. So order list it's nice for how the lab views orders and results. This flow sheet mode, it puts the results more in a format of how providers will see it as opposed to power chart. So it looks a little bit different. So all of our test patient data being cleared out in this domain, it's hard to show the full scope of it, but you can see it'll break it down into different categories. Like this, the random glucose falls under routine chemistry. It shows this is the result for this date and time. If there were multiple today, it would give them each different columns. And that And then heading back to the power chart side, we'll review the results review tab here. So you can see there's a ton of different tabs here for different results falling into different categories. For the most part, labs will either fall into lab recent or lab extended. One of the differences between those is that the lab recent shows a shorter timeline, but it also breaks it out by date and time of the individual results. Whereas the lab extended, since it covers a larger time period, it will group a single day's results into a single column. So it's just something to be aware of. If someone's looking at the extended view and say, hey, I know I had 3 glucoses today, but I've only seen one of them. That's a part where double clicking on it, and you can see there will be other buttons on here to see previous results as well. So you're always able to see all of the results there. There are a few other views which I'm not very familiar with, but there's just different ways that different providers are able to view results and orders. It essentially takes all the information from the results review tab and puts it in a nicer looking format at times. So on this provider view here, we can see under the labs tab, it shows our under routine chemistry random glucose result 5.2 today at 1334. And that is about all that I had for the demonstration today. Does anybody have any questions about that? Again, really just basic workflow for the labs here. And yes, Kim, these are being recorded. Joyce?
Hi, Andrew. Not so much a question, just a comment. I started doing some of the learning journeys. So it was kind of nice when you were flying through these screens to say, oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's good. Starting. So I think that's what has to happen, right? The more we're exposed to the screens. But I will admit, kind of trying to watch this on my computer screen off of your computer screen, the writing gets really quite small. But anyway, this was good to see. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will share for Teams is if you, I can't remember where it is, if someone else is sharing, you are able to zoom in. I think if you hold down control and scroll your mouse wheel.
I keep forgetting to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, that can help at times, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
I'll make a mental note to change my resolution before presenting in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Assuming this information will be shared after end user training, so it's not to overwhelm staff. So, and maybe Tammy or Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as when to share this information with your staff, I think that's up to you guys to manage. You know, how much information they have coming at them, and when it's appropriate to share.
Exactly, Andrew. So you know your team, you know your people more than we do. If you think they would benefit from, you know, just a quick demo, it doesn't have to be like the whole meeting. It could just be like this portion. Then by all means, definitely share it out. If not, so most of these things would also be covered in training as well. So yeah, it's just, you know, exposure and just to increase awareness, like we said. So completely up to you.
Interesting. Are there going to be some workflow process documents for all lab workflows that we can access to share with staff as we navigate through training and go live? So that is a piece that we're hoping to produce out of these working group calls, is some of those, you know, those job aids or materials that will benefit all the sites in the region. So if there's any sort of more specific documents that we'd like to work on it as a group, that we're looking for suggestions on what to focus on. Kim? Sorry, Kim Jones.
Yeah, so just to add to what Andrew said, so you can, his screen is small. But a physician or a nurse has a slightly different view. Plus, they can customize their views a bit. So if they want to see their test results, their lab results at the top of their screen rather than the bottom, in their views of results, they do have colors, and they do see the flagging there. So they will see, they don't have to go to that flow mode that we've seen in the lab to look up their results. If they need to see more details about the result, they can just double click on it. And it should give them all the details that we're used to seeing in a flow mode. Is it a right click maybe? I don't know. We're not, since we're not physicians, it's hard. They can trend their results if they want to in here as well. The other thing I'd say as far as the workflows, we have a standard batch of workflows in the portal that we can share. It at least gives a starting point. I mean, each site may have a nuance to it, but it would tell you how to get from point A to point B, and then you can we can add to it. Because what might a workflow at KGH may be a little bit different because they're more automated than at a Brockville or an LNA because they're a little less automated. So we'll need your support in fine tuning those. I'll stop there. Yep, that's good.
Sorry, I was just trying to adjust my resolution to correct it, but I don't think PowerChart like that very much. It's frozen up on me. So Justine, I see you have it.
Yeah, Justine had a question in the chat. She has a lot of questions. Should she direct it to you and Kim Jones specifically, or should she bring it up in the working group right now?
If you have specific questions like this reference range looks wrong, this tube colors doesn't look right, or why can't I order these together, or this test is missing, that's more a me question because it should have been built as per the DCWs. If it's like a workflow, like how are we regionally going to handle cancel tests or items like that, that would be more of this work group discussion. Am I right there, Andrew?
That's aligned with my expectations as well. Yeah.
Right. So we would start with the blanket statement. Okay, we're going to look at crediting tests, and then we'll grab the nuances from each representative of each site and then come to a consensus.
Yeah. So, okay, perfect. That helps, Justine. So I think, not to put everyone on the spot at this point in time, but as a takeaway for before our next meeting, if you have some workflow requests or suggestions that we want to review at future meetings, please send them forward. Either respond all to the invite or to myself and Kim, or myself, Kim, and Rachel, and we can work out how to get something together or get it on the agenda for the next meeting. Tenzin?
Hi, should more of our lab SMEs be involved in this, especially when it's about like workflows and stuff? I'm more on the technical side, like I connect things and like make sure that it beeps and bops. But like when it comes to lab like workflow, it's blank to me so far.
Yeah, that's a good question, and yeah, that really goes back to the process of developing this work group, is that each member on this was selected by your organization. So I don't know, Tammy, do you have an answer for this?
I think that's a very good question, Tenzin. So what I'm hearing is a SME, someone who has been very involved, should be added to this working group from your organization. Is that a correct statement?
Or
Yes, and
yeah,
sorry, I noticed our Laura White's in here. Should I even be needed instead of my place? Should another labs me take my place? Would it be more like useful?
so can I kind of reword the question? I think
Yeah,
I
go
understood
ahead.
you.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So who from the organizations, like if one of our members has a concern about their membership on here, who could they go to from their organization to revisit membership? Or is that a consideration at this point in time?
That is definitely a conversation that can be had. So that would be the org lead, and I believe for Tenzin, you're from Quinty, right? So the org lead would be Gina Johar. And what I can do is I can actually just send email with and CC you as well to Gina, if that's okay. And then she can decide.
Sure, you can also CC Laura's in there.
Yeah. All right, I will send that email. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, just jump back to our last couple slides here. So as far as next steps, so if you are interested in becoming a co-chair for this working group, please reach out to myself as the regional co-chair. If there are multiple people interested, we will figure out the process for selecting one from multiple candidates, but it really is important to have someone from the sites be a co-lead in this to make sure that it's not a a regional lead just dictating down. We really need involvement from the sites to help lead this forward. So I'll ask that you all review the learning materials provided. So whether it's the recording from this meeting, the slide decks, any other information that's posted to the Lumio library, to begin learning about the different solutions. One of our next steps is to create a Lumio elevator pitch. So we need to explain can you explain to your team in 2 minutes or less why Lumio is important and how it will improve care throughout the region? And the final takeaway here is to ask colleagues or provide 3 topics you'd like to discuss at our next meeting. So as we were talking about, if there's any specific workflows, like Kim mentioned, how will we cancel a test in the new system? Be great topics to suggest for our next meeting. Please just reach out to, send an email back to myself, Kim and Rachel, and we can have those added to the agenda. And sorry, I guess Tammy or Rachel, the elevator pitch, is this something that we're expected to go through now, or is it a takeaway and we try to come up with one at our next meeting?
Either or, you can definitely take it away, and just to think of, what that Lumio elevator pitch would be if you were going to talk to your team members or your colleagues. But yeah, it's something to think about for sure.
Great. So yeah, if anybody has any thoughts that they want to share right now about an elevator pitch or key improvements that want to promote to our region, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Well, I think a consolidated system and all sharing the same system is a benefit to your patients, your clients, the people you serve, because it'll be easier access for their information as a whole, because it will be an electronic medical record across all the organizations. That's just my opinion from what I've been seeing in the Lumio project. I think as a whole, all the facilities are going to benefit from sharing this electronic medical record. It's going to be a little easier for the providers, so they don't have to call this lab or call that lab or call this lab. They're going to have access to all that information and all those results in one place instead of having to go and remember your OLIS login. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with different testing that's been sent throughout the region to be tested at different sites. It's going to be good to have that sort of front-facing display of current status, rather than you send it down to your local lab, it gets sent out, and you don't really know where it's at until it comes back. You'll be able to see those real-time results when they're posted. It'll be good. That will be a big benefit.
And it also gives you an opportunity to collaborate on projects. So rather than one facility kicking off a project in some renal space or something, you can collaborate as the 6 facilities and all come together and do a regional project in renal care or OC Health or 4,000 other things. There is a benefit to sharing in an EMR. They can also, because you're sharing, you can pull out data on a larger population. So instead of just pulling data from your Kingston patient group, you can pull out a regional data group if there needs to be data mined for certain things for the providers and the researchers. So yeah, that's just me selling Lumio and the benefits of the project.
Thanks, Kim.
If I may add, I think like being more realistic and accountability is like pretty important as we get closer and closer, because we're in the stage where, we're in this project where everyone's CC'd and your name gets lost in it, but your task is in the ask among the paragraphs. So I think accountability to yourself and to the project, and be more realistic about the end goal.
Thanks, Tenzin. Anyone else have any thoughts they want to share? All right. So that is, I believe that's all we have on the agenda for today.
Do we have a cadence for this meeting, Andrew? Are we meeting?
Yes, so I believe it will be every 2 weeks, and I think the second meeting has already been sent out. Rachel, are you able to confirm that? Sorry, I'll just pull up my calendar here.
I'm not sure if the second one's actually been set up yet, so we'll set up the second kickoff meeting. We wanted to do this one just to make sure that we had the correct membership, get any questions asked, that sort of thing. So I will send that out for our second kickoff, and then you will get another meeting cadence after that. That will be the regular bi-weekly 1 hour.
Thank you. Kim?
So Andrew, are these meetings going to be Monday afternoons at 12:30 to 2:30?
That is a good question.
Because the only reason I ask is it does conflict with my weekly training lead meetings, so I would have to flip-flop, alternate, or depend on attending them through recorded sessions. I'd have to divide my time between the two.
Yeah, no, I understand. So sorry, Rachel, I'm gonna look to you for this one.
That's okay. I will send out the second kickoff sometime this week to get that into schedules. I will do my absolute best to avoid this Monday time slot. I know that schedules for everybody are quite difficult. So if there's ever an issue with a meeting that is reoccurring, especially for the regular, those bi-weekly meetings where we would like to see as many people as possible, do let me know and I can see what I can do.
Oh, I see Laura White in the chat, an elevator pitch. Our 6 hospitals are united by a shared information system, enabling seamless coordination of patient care across all facilities. This integration ensures that medical records are instantly accessible, allowing for faster, more accurate diagnoses and treatment plans. Patients benefit from consistent, high-quality care no matter where they are within our network, reducing errors and improving outcomes. This connected system not only enhances patient safety and satisfaction, but also streamlines operations, making healthcare more efficient and effective for everyone involved. Very
That's
well
far,
worded.
far better than what I said. But
Yeah,
that's the
I love it.
pitch. I mean, the goal is, and the idea is from this group is to take that elevator pitch and pitch out to all your people. So do positive talk, which we do anyway, and get everybody on board for the Lumio project and the go live that's coming up.
Yeah, understanding there's going to be roadblocks and difficulties or challenges that we face. It's important to have this elevator pitch to focus on the positives that are coming with this project, which really are going to benefit the patients that we serve.
Right. And as we get closer and closer to go live, things are going to come up like positions and, oh, this person this or this person that, or certain workflows that are facility specific that maybe didn't get addressed before. And these are the types of things that we want to try and catch. Those are the bigger roadblocks that are going to be a hassle at go live. But if somebody mentions it to you when we bubble it up to here, we can see if we can at least find a workable solution at go live. If not, fine tune it so that it's an accurate workflow at go live. All right, Andrew, that's all I got.
Yeah, last call for any outstanding questions from anyone out there before we call it for today. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. We look forward to meeting again in 2 weeks' time and carrying this group on towards go live and beyond. So just once again, if anybody's interested in becoming a co-chair of this group, please put your name forward to myself. We'll continue working on the elevator pitch next time around, but I think Laura's probably got this one in the bag here. It's a pretty solid pitch. And please forward any topics for our next meeting, any workflows that we want to review together. If we know ahead of time, we can prepare a demonstration. If it comes up on the call, we can do our best to get through it. Yeah, that's all I have for today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.